Hi, welcome back to Culinary Corner. My name is Isabelle, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make brookies, which if you don't know what that is, it's a combination between brownies and chocolate chip cookies. Our recipe is going to take about 20 minutes for prep time, 20 minutes for cook time, and probably about 40 to 50 minutes in total. All right, so the first thing I'm going to be doing is our cookie layer. So I have half a cup of softened butter, and I'm gonna scoop the rest of that out with a spatula to make sure I get it all. And now I have half a cup of light brown sugar, 1/4 cup of white sugar, and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to fold this all together. So this is also known as mixing your wet ingredients. And like all cookie recipes, you always want to mix your wet ingredients and then you're going to mix in your dry ingredients. After mixing your wet ingredients, you should have kind of a brown paste that looks like this. And we're going to add one more wet ingredient, and that's going to be our egg. You want to make sure to add your egg last so it's fully incorporated. So for this step, because I'm using an egg, I'm actually going to be using a whisk. So I'm going to get all of that off of my spatula, and I'm going to whisk in my egg. At most, mixing all your wet ingredients together should have taken you about 2 to 3 minutes. So my next step is going to be folding in all my dry ingredients. And for this, I'm going to go back to my spatula. So first thing I'm going to be mixing in is half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. When you're folding an ingredient, you want to kind of go around the sides of the bowl and bring it back in. So just like this. The next thing I'm going to be incorporating is 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. You want to make sure your flour is all-purpose. So I'm going to just dump that in real quick. And once again, I'm going to be using this folding technique where I bring it around the sides and back in. Make sure you are regularly scraping your bowl so you are incorporating all of your ingredients. And once you're at this stage, if you want to, I recommend kind of going in and mixing with your hands. It just takes less time and it's a bit easier. So I'm going to come in with the flour, and I'm still going to be using this folding technique, but I'm still going to use my hands. Now that I've fully incorporated my flour and all of my dry ingredients, I'm going to be doing the final step for the cookie layer, which is adding chocolate chips, everyone's favorite part. So I'm just going to kind of dump that in. You can use any size of chocolate chips, we just happen to have the small ones. And once again, I'm going to be incorporating that folding technique by bringing it around the sides of the bowl. So now that I've finished my cookie layer, I'm going to set that aside and grab a different bowl to start my brownie layer. Similar to cookies, I'm going to mix them wet and dry, with the exception of cocoa powder and sugar, of course, just like cookies. So I'm going to make sure that my half cup of butter is completely melted. This will be very important for incorporating the cocoa powder. So I'm going to completely dump that in. I'm also going to be adding 1 full teaspoon of vanilla extract. And kind of give that a little bit of a mix. Make sure that's all incorporated. So the next thing you're going to want to add is your granulated sugar. So for your white sugar, you should have exactly 1 cup. Go ahead and incorporate that. and just kind of mix that in. Now that I've mixed my butter, sugar, and vanilla, my next step is to incorporate my eggs. So I'm actually going to trade into a whisk for this one, and I'm going to mix in these eggs one at a time. So that's my first egg. I'm gonna just really quickly whisk that in. And then I'm gonna whisk in my second egg. All right, so I have whisked in 2 large eggs, and my next step is going to be adding 1/3 cup of cocoa powder. So I have my cocoa powder here. I'm gonna add this gradually just so I make sure it's kind of all mixed in. Alright, so now that I've mixed in all of my ingredients, I'm going to do 2 final ingredients, which is going to be 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/8 teaspoon of salt and half a cup of all-purpose flour. And then I'm going to once again use my folding technique. Make sure you are continuously scraping the sides so you have all of your ingredients incorporated. Alright, for this next step I'm going to be using an 8x8 foil cooking pan. And before I put anything in it, I'm going to make sure to spray it with any just baking spray you have so your product does not stick to the pan. So very quickly, I'm just going to give that a good spray. Make sure you get the sides as well. So the first thing I'm going to be adding into this pan is the cookie layer on the bottom so we have a nice base. So I'm going to be transferring that and kind of smush it down so we have a nice base. For this method, I'm using my fist just to kind of make sure it's all even. And then for the filling part, I'm going to be putting our brownie batter on top. All right, and next I'm just gonna take my spatula and just spread this around. Make sure your layers are just as even as you can possibly get them, just so they all cook evenly. So now that I've spread my brownie around, I do have just a little bit of cookie dough left, so I'm just gonna place that around. And kind of pat that down a little bit. My next step is going to be putting this in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes, or until your toothpick comes out with no residue. So I'm going to take this. So now that my brownies are in the oven, I'm going to wait 20 minutes. All right. Now my brookies are completely finished. You can cut these into any piece you'd like. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Culinary Corner. This is Isabelle saying goodbye, and I hope you enjoy your brookies.